I'm going to review some web scraping that I've done in Python wrapped with Bash in order to use proxy servers to get around. This particular website has Google bot decoder that I was unable to get past, so I manually downloaded segments of the HTML and then just scraped it directly. So this video is going to go over just my standard setup, and there's no single right way or wrong way as long as you get the data, in my opinion. So it's going to review looping through Bash script, and in that loop it will then call Python via proxy to scrape the site. This site is factual.com. It's been requested from a client to pull some email addresses for some certain cities. Trying to think if there's anything else. This is all done on Linux with Headless, with Python's Headless browser, and it doesn't use beautiful soup because I'm not actually doing the scraping inside of Python, and Selenium. So let's go ahead and get started here. The first thing I'm going to do is make a directory for the website, and then inside of that directory, like I said, I'm going to have a bash script. Add the shebang. This will cut the return character to be the new line separator. Then I'm going to load all of the local text files, which will be all the code segments, and then I'm going to save the emails into a payload directory. In case the script fails, I'm going to check this, make sure that the file doesn't already exist. If it does, we're going to go ahead and remove it. And we're just going to go ahead and quickly run through what I already have here, just to some of it. Rename it to the name of the project. And at this point, we will load the proxies from a text file. That way there, I'm going to very cheaply randomly grab every line for the file. So we're going to go ahead and create the file. just going to go to proxiesforfree.com and grab a couple of the first results for like the best, the 15 newest. Those are generally going to be not blocked yet, I guess, since they're the newest listed. And I'm going to go back and edit it later, but I'm going to go ahead and mention it now. By using 15, we're going to get a false positive. So if we grep and end up with a random of 1, we're going to end up returning line 1, line 10, line 11, line 12, line 13, line 14, and line 15. So I end up going back and re-editing it to only have 10 lines, and then the way that I grab random, it'll only grab 1 through 9. So the proxies variable is going to contain all of the lines from that file, and then we're going to loop through all of the files that are .txt within the local directory. Just give a little standard output to let us know which one we're looping on currently. And this is where we add some predefined filters for the website. It just causes it to be automatically filled out. It would have been great if the site didn't have the robot catcher, because you can just straight feed the state and the city, and it'll give you 3 pages of data. So here we're doing manual verification, and then select all the images with trees. And in the breakdown here, there's a factual sublink which doesn't request bot validation. So what we're doing is we're grabbing each of the pages that's returned for the search criteria, and then looping through that code, grabbing the factual ID link per that entry to then scrape the data. So we're going to right-click, inspect, and then go into that HTML code segment to grab all of the returned entries. So we're just going to grab the highest div for the rows, then edit as HTML, and then I just copy content and then paste into a city incremented text file. So this example is miami.0.txt, and then the next one will be Miami 1, and the last one will be Miami 2, and then move on to the next city. And I believe I do 2 examples in this walkthrough. Go ahead and save the text file, and then we'll right click, inspect element, and go to the top diff, and then we'll edit as HTML, and copy and paste. Grab the last one, then we're going to go ahead and just change to a second example city-state. That was Miami, Florida. This one's going to be Houston, Texas. Again, we're just going to name it with the city and an incrementer, so that way there when we loop through it, we can just call it a text file, and then we'll be able to see all the names for quick reference. Now with that done, we're pretty much done with the manual web browser. Everything from this point should be automated. We'll go back into the shell script and I'm going to set it to executable, and we're going to do a quick run just to show that it is looping through each of the files. Interestingly, let's take a look at those files with the word counter, and it is only one line. So we're going to need to next use sed to change the end of line so that we can get each line of HTML separated by a line character. And we're going to do that by passing in div to sed and changing it to div and carriage return, new line character. Interestingly, I find out in doing this that it accepts it one way on the command line, but another way within the bash script. And the difference being that I had to use a single quote character to separate the end of the arguments passed to sed from the slash to basically exit out, and then indicate the $sign to be the end of line character. So we're going to end it at the $sign, start, and then restart it. And then when we pipe that to the word count, we've got 1,200 lines. And we're just going to look for the lines of input. And now you'll note that's one of the URL links. So we're just going to go ahead and for the 10th space delimited value, and that's going to be the link that we want to go to. So now as we link through the files, we're able to grab that entry multiple times per file. And then we're going to strip off the HTML elements, and we get just the raw file, or sorry, just the raw ID for that entry on the website. And last thing, we're just going to clean up that / because we're going to use this to create our output file name. And again, we just use sed to change / to be nothing, and now we get our links for the profile, which we'll use the links text editor, the links text web browser, just to go to the site, just to prove that we're able to reach the site by stripping that out of the HTML. And we have the site, and we can browse down and actually look at information for that location, the address, the email, and that's essentially what we're going to be grabbing for the profile is the email. So we're going to go ahead and copy all of that we just did, put it in our shell script. And we're going to change the pipe with the last sed to remove the first character / to a different variable entry. We're going to do that in a separate spot. I don't know, we'll see. Sometimes I do it differently. Uh-oh, got a typo. This is that part I was mentioning before, how it reacts differently within the script than it does from the command line. So now that we've grabbed each one and set it to the variable sub, we're just going to to go ahead and run through this and show that each sub pulls, you can pull multiple subs per each text file. So we're going to go ahead and loop on all of the subs grabbed per each file. And it helps if you echo out the correct variable. And it also helps if you loop on the correct variable. Sub in subs. So now when it grabs each text file, it's going to grab each of the individual IDs. And because we were hard coding the Miami 0 text file, it was only looping through that same file. So now when we go through here, it should say for each file, cat each file. And now you can see they're different. So here's where we're going to go ahead and set the URL variable to factual.com/subid. We're going to go ahead and strip off that character at the time that we assign it to the sub value, or at the time we assign the value to the sub variable name. And just to show that it's working. And we'll go ahead and grab one and just go ahead and load it with links again, just to verify that as we're progressing that it's still functioning as expected. And there's our email. So I'm going to go ahead and put out. I'll look in the payload file, or payload directory, and I wouldn't expect anything to be in here yet, because we're not actually doing anything just yet. And now we're just checking that if the file exists, make sure that it has content, because as they block access, if they detect that a bot is scraping, they will set file sizes. The script will end up saving a file with 0 size. But it looks like I'm deleting that for some reason. I may not end up using it in this example. So we're just going to output the fetching the file based on the URL. And I'm going to look at some of my prior written Python code to kind of just jumpstart this a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and copy the parse Python file. It just kind of gets me started for passing arguments, so I can pass the proxy server to use, as well as passing an argument for the URL to fetch from. We're just going to call that, I'm going to leave it called parse for now. Copied into our factual project directory, and we're going to import the arg parse, and inside of that we're going to set a proxy. There's our proxy list. Clean up the extra garbage out of it. I'm still kind of figuring things out here. This is where I take a look at the file size. It's got 15 entries. Set a random number by echoing random system file and then just cutting the first character. It's cheap and easy. So it'll give us a random digit between 1 and 9. So we're going to set our proxy variable to equal the value of catting out the proxy file. Piping for grep end of line character. And noting the file line number. Then we will grep for our random number, and we'll cut off of delimiter colon to be field 2. So, for example, if look at the numbers, we get 1 through 15, and if we cut off delimiter field 1, that gives us all the line numbers. We're going to go with field 2. That's the proxy server value. And we're going to grep for our random character. Typing column 1, and that'll give us an entry, except if you get a 1. And that's where I figured this out. So we go to line 10 and we delete the rest, so we only have 9 entries. Again, it's quick and easy, so I'm sure it could be built a whole lot better, but it serves the purpose for the project to just randomly hop proxy servers. And the reason for that, of course, is that if they determine a bot, it adds more time in between each download from different sources. So we're going to go ahead and determine our proxy server based on that line of code. So that each fetch will have a relatively random proxy server source. So now when we call our shell script, it says it's fetching, and it denotes the ID, the factual, as well as the proxy server. The script is actually calling Python to call the parse, so it's actually passing the proxy server to the parse Python script, which is then echoing it out, or printing it to the screen. We're going to go ahead and add a second argument here, and instead of -p or --proxy, we're going to do -u and -url, and just go ahead and show that it works, except this is invalid syntax. Find that out soon enough. We're going to go back to the shell script, and I'm going to add an URL argument. So now the Python script will print both the proxy and the URLs arguments that were passed, just kind of proving that it's receiving them as expected with the arguments. So now I'm going to get some of the scraping code from my previously written program and bring it into our project. Go over output. Go ahead and rename this factual.py. We'll go ahead and import Solarium so that we use the WebDriver. Get rid of all this other stuff again because we're not actually doing any of the parsing with this Python file. We're just simply using it to use the proxy, so probably don't even need everything that I left in there. And as you can see, it's just, again, using the random proxy server that was passed over. So it's at this point using the Firefox WebDriver to launch a browser and connect. So we're actually connecting to the URL over the proxy server, and we're getting our payload. We don't want to have to eat the resources every time this runs, so let's go ahead and we'll make that headless. And that's just there's our output, our HTML outputs. We printed the content of the file after we requested it with the WebDriver. Trying to cancel out of this thing. We go back into our shell script and we can add a sleep command just so the stuff doesn't like float by. And the waiting text lets us now differentiate between actually now having ran the Python script. So yeah, this is just incredibly generic. We just print out the proxy server, print out the URL, load a WebDriver, and go to the argument URL that was passed. So at this point, we're going to create a proxy. We're going to define, actually I'm not going to bother defining a new variable. We're just going to call WebDriver desired capabilities, and basically set the proxy within Firefox takes a couple of arguments, and each of these will assign our args proxy value that was passed over from the bash script. I don't know if all of these are required, I just do them. We're going to set no proxy to none. We're going to set the type to manual. We're going to set the auto detect to false. And because we've set it in the web browser, now when we make our request, it is going to fetch it over the proxy and then print out the HTML. At this point, we are going to add the headless part of the browser. This allows us to still call the browser Firefox through Python, but not actually have the graphics pop up. And I'm going to do that by setting visible to 0 within the display. I believe we're going to actually add another import to use that display function. So we define it, we start it, we actually call the browser, and then we have to quit the display. And this is where we're defining, or sorry, we're importing the functionality for display. Or at least trying to. But I have to install it first. And I believe this fails out because I need escalated privileges. there it is. So we're going to go ahead and issue pip install to sudo. Go ahead and authenticate, and now we're installing Python virtual display. Alright, with that installed, we should now be able to run it. Our bash script is called Python, which is launching a headless display, and then printing out the HTML. Except that display quit isn't a thing. Go ahead and cancel. Go back into Python code. And take that out. We'll try rerunning. And then we will get the waiting text once it's done to indicate that the Python script is ran. So we know if we're waiting for Bash or if we're waiting for Python. There's our HTML output. So now we need to parse the output being returned. That's easy enough. Because in this instance, just simply uses the element email. Now that we've actually fetched the sub ID, we're going to save it into our payload directory under the subid.txt. I'm going to make sure that it was actually downloaded. Once we validate that it's a thing, we're going to grab the email just simply by catting the file. grepping for email. Of course, I think, yeah, initially I tried to grab item prep, and I believe this fails. Then we'll go ahead and strip the HTML elements off by looking for greater than and grabbing field 2. Then that leaves us with the item we want and div tag. So cut delimiter less than field 1. Go ahead and tell them that we did it. But again, this first one I believe fails because the grep term that I'm looking for, the item prep equals email, isn't, it's too much. And then once we have our email, we're going to send it to payload emails. .text. When we're all done fetching the emails, we can just sort and unique on that file. Oh, I forgot about this, the ANSI code. This thing freaks out about it, so I actually had to research real quick. To set the encoding type when Python grabs it, otherwise it's unable to handle it as it is. So we set the encoding type to ANSI. And XML char reference replace. Go ahead and run it again, and I'm pretty sure that was all that it takes to clear that issue. It's grabbing the file, it's saving it to payload, and then it's going to, this is where we're still grepping for too much, so it's saying scraped, and there's no value because there's nothing returned from grep. I'd probably let a second one run, just to make sure the first one actually didn't have an email address. on the HTML page. So if we just grep for the word email against the payload file, oh, look at that. There's just one entry. So that's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy grab. And while I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and check my syntax for actually adding it to the script. That's right, strip the HTML. And we're left with a nice email address. So we're going to go back into the shell script file. And just get the hell rid of all that extra stuff that I thought was in the HTML code. So at this point, it's going to fetch the file. There's going to be 10 of these IDs per every page that was grabbed from Factual. So there's 3 per city, per state that's passed in the URL that I went over at the beginning. So once it grabs it, it saves it to the payload directory, and then it greps for email and the text. There's the HTML, and we have our scraped email address. Go ahead and let it run a second one, just as an example. And there we are. And those emails are then being saved to the payload emails text file. And again, when we're all done, we can cat that pipe to sort, pipe to unique to clear out any duplicates. So that is my tutorial for using Bash and Python to use proxies to fetch and scrape sites. With this example, hope you enjoyed. Thanks.